in the industry, whatever industry that you're in, like, and you feel like you have to work twice as hard just to feel good enough in that position, how has that shaped your outlook?
I do want to. So outside of my creative pursuits, I work in sales. Sales is something that comes natural to me because I'm really good with people, and I connect with people. The thing is, I am passionate about what I do, and sometimes when I'm passionate, you could tell in my voice. A lot of times, my leaders have told me to tone down my blackness without telling me to tone down my blackness by telling me to control my emotions because they think I'm an angry black man. In reality, I'm not. I'm just telling you how I feel, and me expressing my feelings shouldn't be came across as aggression because if somebody else did it, you wouldn't feel that way, And then same situation happened, and then sometimes I feel like in that work setting, I work with a lot of uppity old money white folks. I work in PV,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of times they see me and they think I'm trying to challenge them when I'm just expressing some things, and it gets frustrating, to tell me to, because where I'm from, this is kind of how we are, but we don't mean no harm, type
Mm-hmm.
of situation. So it's kind of like checking my blackness at the door so I can make some money, and I'm not used to dancing for the white man. So it's something I'm trying to get used to, but you know, bills got to be paid, and I do love what I do. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
I think in music, it's a very limited idea of what a black woman should, how she should represent herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy to be pressured and to compromise
Mm-hmm.
how, especially if you have a lot of morals and values. And no shade to anyone to say that they don't, but I just remember growing up, and I'm sure you guys love 90s R&B.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we were blessed to have so many different types of representations on how you could represent yourself as an artist, especially as a black woman. And I think over time, it's gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And sex seems to be one of the only and easiest ways to sell yourself. So in a way, I feel I work twice as hard to be more than just that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's so much more to represent yourself as and to lead with. Sex is a part of it because it's a part of our human nature, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not all of who I am or all of my message or the only way for someone to hear what I have to say.
Right.
And in that way, I feel like it's working twice as hard because you have to be twice as strategic, twice as creative to do that because sex is the lowest hanging fruit because it appeals to all of us at our most primitive level.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are when your why is something much deeper than that, when it's purpose driven, you do have to be twice as creative, twice as strategic, and even more dialed in to like what you said with God, with having him instruct and order you on your how as you approach your why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I definitely agree with that. And I believe your no has to be twice as loud as your why sometimes.
Absolutely.
Like no is one of the words that we typically, kids' first words are no a lot of the time. And there's a reason for that. Like, because no can save you from a whole lot of situations. And especially when you're coming into how you see yourself or how God sees you, like, saying no can keep you on purpose. So definitely remembering your why, remembering your no, because we can remember our why and still not speak up and advocate for ourselves. So allowing your why to fuel your boldness to say no to those things, because obviously we all work very hard, and sometimes you have a right to tell those employers, no, I'm not doing that. It compromises what my integrity is. Piggybacking off of what Diamond said, sometimes walking away is just the best thing that you can do, because if it doesn't align with where you're going, like, we're not going to compromise ourselves to make a couple dollars, because at the end of the day, like, okay, when we die, nobody's going to remember how much money we made. They're going to remember how you made them feel. They're going to remember the person that you are. And, you know, like Mikhala was saying, like, yeah, sex sells, but sex doesn't replenish you. Like, it's cool. Like, we want music that's gonna feed people's souls, and that's why I definitely appreciate it. If you guys haven't listened to Mikhala's music, it's very powerful. One of her songs, The Annunciation, definitely spoke to me. Talking about being pregnant with purpose, and definitely you know, she said you were like 14 and an angel came to you, something like that.
Yes.
Definitely go into that.
So, like you said earlier, I was a shy kid, a really shy kid. I did art, I danced, but when it came to singing, it scared me so bad. Like if you asked me to sing, I would cry as a kid. And I remember even when I joined the choir, I was like, okay, will I be an alto or soprano? I'm like, there's more altos. I can hide over there. So I felt like I'm an alto because I tried to hide. But I went into the alto section and I'm like, this is enough for me to hide over here. That's just how scared I was to sing. But it was stirring up in me. I loved to sing. My whole childhood I loved to sing, but I just did it in my own quiet time up until the time I was 14. God gave me a dream and an angel visited me and told me to use my gift to share it with the world. And if I did, he would make a way. And my mom was over the youth choir at the time, over the youth department as a whole, but over the youth choir. And she was like, I really want you to lead this song. And I'm like, Mom, I'm scared. And then I had that dream, and it gave me the courage and the confidence to lead that song, and the whole church was slain in the spirit. God showed me that very day, this is why I've purposed this for you. But since then, it has been an act of courage because the shyness doesn't really necessarily go away. I just have been challenging it for a long time and just have worked the muscle of it not being a determining factor of if I will do something or not do something. But that dream changed my life. And since then, I have used voice, songwriting, words to try to ignite that same spark in others to find courage, to find out their purpose and destiny in their own lives.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. Chace, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
I'll jump in here for sure. I really like the idea of working twice as hard. I think, a lot of us see it is a burden, of course, going into a space, knowing your work speaks for itself, knowing you worked hard to get to where you are. Right. But if you, step back, step out of that and think about the fact that I have this gift that God gave me, and it's a blessing that I even get to live this out in real life. And bring my dreams to fruition. So I let that inspire me every day. Like when I am overlooked in these predominantly white spaces, predominantly male spaces, I let that motivate me because there's nothing better than exceeding not only your expectations, but others. And I think fueling that every single day is something that I can hold with me and bring to other people. And especially people who feel overlooked and people who I really love this term, but imposter syndrome. Wow, like plagued by that all the time, every day. And when you really look at it, it's really you doing that to yourself at the end of the day. It's not other people's words targeted at you. It's not other people's looks or feelings about you. It's yourself. You're battling this with yourself. And when I remember that, it almost becomes a little bit funny, and I can just be like, now why am I negative self-talking me when at the end of the day, I have the blessing of doing what I love. I have the blessing of sharing that with others. And I have the blessing of just striving to be my best version of myself. So I want to work twice as hard. I want to work 3 times as hard. And I want to keep seeing where this journey takes me. Because like Diamond said, this path is not linear. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be curves. And I look at it as a roller coaster, right? It's fun. And, you take every punch and you roll with it. So I'm inspired by that. And I'm inspired by you all. Seriously, I think this is just a beautiful space. And I love hearing about how everybody can come together and just fight for their dreams. So
I love how you just said fight for your dreams, because that definitely leads into the next question. Look at you. Come on.
Before we move forward, I do
go
want
for
to
it.
just add this in because I think a common denominator that we've all talked about, particularly discussing that, was, working, like you said, working twice as hard. It is fuel and like it's a roller coaster. But I don't want us to overlook the burnout that comes with working twice as hard, because roller coasters make me, I get a little, dizzy, a little vertigo. So making sure to take care of that too. Do not overlook that, especially in the black community. We're so ingrained and so like, I'm not even going to say the word trained, because it's right,
culture,
that hustle mindset. Oh, I sleep when I'm dead, but we sleep while we're alive right. It's like in our core, but that will make you sick. Like it will make you sick. So don't overlook your mental health and your actual health when it comes to the grind and the hustle and that motivation, because that's just as important to your journey as the hard work and the hustle.
Right.
Sorry, didn't want to railroad you.
No,
but
for sure. No, that was important. It was needed to say, and that definitely leads into what's coming next, talking about protecting your creativity and your identity when the industry tries to box you in. I know that Tu was talking about, or Damier was talking about how oftentimes, you're too black for the role that you're in. You got to watch your inflections. You got to watch your body language. You got to be so, critical of everything that you do. So how do you take those criticisms and still protect your creativity?
Two things. So one, when it comes to my 9 to 5, although in sales I do work commission, I don't do anything for money. So I'm not just gonna have a customer take these things that I know they can't afford, or tell them, hey, I can only lower your bill if you buy the cell phone from me. I'm not doing that, because at the end of the day, I understand times is hard, and I'm not motivated by money. So I don't compromise my integrity for a check. That's just a hard rule that I have. And then when it comes to my art, a lot of times as artists, especially when you're trying to do it full time, you find yourself doing pieces that you may or may not be passionate about, because you got to keep the lights on. And that's something that I also had to stop doing. When I first started my photography journey, I was doing a lot of free work just to, get my name out there. And I was doing a lot of photo shoots that was just, it made me not want to pick up my camera, because I'm like, this is not why I got in a photo. This is not why I got in a video. So it's like, at the end of the day, I love art and I'm good at it because I don't put a price on it. If somebody wants to buy a print, if somebody wants to hire me for an event, cool. If you don't, that's fine, because at the end of the day, I create for me. And I think especially when it comes to art, you have to move with passion and not profit, because if you do so, then you'll be like these rappers in the industry who's getting not looked over, but getting messed over because they're just being a puppet. These industry plants, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes as an artist, it's important to protect your voice, protect your paint stroke, protect whatever it is that you're doing, because that is the gift that God gave from you, and you should not allow somebody else to exploit it. If that means you're not going to be the next big director or the next Picasso, so what? You're going to go as far as God allows, but as long as you protect yourself, because the Bible says, what has a man gained if he lost his soul? And that's something that I hold in my 9 to 5 life and also my creative pursuits. I cannot be bought. Did that 400 years ago. You're not doing it again.
Honestly, how I protect it from me is I'm an open person. So if I'm here for a reason. And if someone's giving me criticism, I'm the type of person like, okay, let me take a step back and just hear them out. Because sometimes some people see things that you don't see. And I never want to be so locked into something where it's like, I don't see where it could be more. Because sometimes I can be my own ceiling. And I don't want that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like I'm always going to add me to it, but I'm also a collaborator. Because I believe in community. I believe Jesus, he had a community with him. So I'm like, if you see something I don't see, I'm like, oh, thank you. I didn't think about it that way. And that's how I look at it for me. So where it's always going to be mine, and because what's yours is yours.
Right.
What God gave you is yours. No one can duplicate it. Nobody can. They can try. But when it's time to do it, they would never be able to do it like you. And that gives me peace because what's for you is for you.
Right.
So now when it comes to other people, I'm like, okay, thank you for that. And if it's something that I can actually apply, I'll apply it. If it's not, thank you for your opinion or whatever your suggestion. I'm going to go a different route. And that's what I try to do so people still feel seen, heard, but not like go away from myself. So, yeah.
Right.
I think it's crucial to protect your creativity. My mom used to always tell me growing up that if you don't know who you are, people will tell you. And I have heard that in my head for so many years. And, you know, it's normal to discover and to go through things and experiences that help develop who you are. So you will say yeses when they should have been no's. And you will say no's when they should have been yeses.
Right.
But it's all vital in discovering your identity. And I've even given myself more grace even in that, in respecting the journey and that process. But as you do begin to learn and discover, you do start to learn boundaries that can be, that are so important to protect your gifts, your abilities, and just ultimately protect you, you know, especially when you're approaching so much of your work with your whole heart and with passion, like you said, and not profit. You definitely have to do all you can to make sure that you're not compromising.
Definitely, I can relate to all what you guys were saying. You know, as all of you are, I am a creative myself. I'm a photographer, and one of the things I think I talking with you guys about it a little earlier is I was doing real estate photography for a little bit, and it's photography, but it's not what I want to do. Like, it's boring. Like, it's a house. Like, I'd rather work with people. Like, event photography is where I love to be. I love to be in the scene. I love to see people in their truest form. That's why I like to do event photography, because there's no faking that. If, like, when somebody's singing, they're putting their all into it, you see it. When somebody's crying and they're feeling the emotion of whatever's going on, especially like when you're shooting in places like church, and getting to see the passion and the livelihood, like knowing when to like take that step back, and, you know, say this is not for me, and that's something I had to do for myself. So I definitely relate to protecting your creativity, because sometimes things can look like your creativity, but it's not the same thing. Just like we have two keys that are similar, but they don't fit in the same door. So like straying away from the similarities and going for what exactly it is, like that's what you want to do. I know that Diamond had something to add.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, kind of piggybacking off of what all of you guys said. Like to Sam's point earlier, I think protecting your peace does involve kind of standing up for yourself in those workplaces, because as Black people, you are very self-conscious. It's like, okay, should I be watching my tone right now? Should I even speak back or even offer, you know, my rebuttal towards something? It's like, should I even offer a rebuttal to what you're saying to me? And oftentimes, like I mentioned earlier, standing up for myself is what I consider a superpower, because like I can take your criticism into consideration, but I'm also not going to let you railroad me. So I will take what you're saying if it's valid, but I also want to reassert myself and say, I understand that, but I'm not compromising who I am at the end of the day for a product that you want me to push out. And also going back to, you know, passion for profit, I'm actually the opposite. So I started off in an industry that I thought I was passionate about. And when I got in it, I was like, I hate this to my core. I don't like this. And I found passion in things that I do outside of it. Obviously, I do creative work, but I love tea. I have a whole apothecary at home, and people are like, oh my gosh, you should sell this. You should sell this. You would make so much money. You would make so much money. I would, but I don't want to do that, because now it turns into something that's a chore. It's a job. Now I got to worry about, am I meeting budget? Am I overspending? Am I underspending? And then you got to worry about the word of people, like, oh girl, I'm gonna buy from you. I'm gonna buy for you. You know, ain't no word come out when the product launches. So it's like, do I want to take something that it gives me that escape from that 9 to 5 and the hustle and the grind, and then turn that into money, because now I'm putting different expectations. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that.
Right.
If you want to get the tea from me, talk to me separately. I will walk you through it. And if you feel so compelled to pay me, I'll give you a price. But I'm not turning it into an obligation, because we live in this society and this culture now that's like, side hustle this, side hustle that. And it's great. It is. It's 100%. You can make money doing a lot of things. However, we should not be forced or pressured into turning something that we are just passionate about and happy doing into something that's going to turn into profit. We live in such a capitalistic state that it's like, sometimes I just wanted to sip my tea. I like my little lavender rose blend. I like to experiment on it. And if other people enjoy it, fantastic. I can enjoy that with y'all. And if I want to take that step to sell it, but then when it becomes an expectation, it's like, I don't want to do it. Now it's just work again, and I'm not happy doing this. So, so I think that's important to not place that pressure on people. That's like, if I like to shoot video content, maybe I just like to do that. I don't want to turn it into money, because now it becomes something that I never wanted it to be in the first place.
Right. I definitely appreciate that, because like you said, with the capitalist society, they definitely push you to monetize every single last thing you have. They talking about in order for you to live in this world, you gotta have 2 jobs and a side hustle. Like, it's definitely exhausting. Like, black fatigue is real. Like, and I'm tired. I don't know about y'all. I'm tired. And, like, it's good to just have a creative outlet. Like, going back to you talk about not having, like, putting yourself in a position where you burn out. One of the things I like to do is draw. I'm not doing anything for commission. If I want to draw, I'm going to draw. It's not going to be for anybody else. And, it's definitely a good outlet. Music is another thing that I love to do. I can sing. I choose not to. Because when you do that, like people come and they're like, hey, I heard you. Now can you do that? No, I don't want to do that. Especially in the church. They find out you do anything. Like, they're like, I was the sound person, the photographer, and in the choir. Like, so, right. Going back to protecting your creativity is sometimes learning how to shut up. You ain't got to tell everybody what you do.
Sometimes your gifts are just your gifts.
Right.
You're not compelled to share it with everybody.
Right. Like, there are gifts that you're obligated to share, and there's some gifts that you're not obligated to share. And definitely separating the two and not blending the lines is so important. So, with that being said, has anybody ever labeled y'all as difficult or too much to work with for standing in your truth?
So here's the thing.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm a very easygoing person. It kind of takes a lot to get me upset. But when you're wrong, you're wrong. And that's just that. I also don't sugarcoat anything. That's just how I am. Take it or leave it. So, again, working in the type of field I work, customers, when they come to me, I wear the badge of the company, but I'm not the company, but they cuss me out like I am the company. And then when I'm telling the customers, hey, you're wrong, this is actually what happened, they think I'm challenging them or I'm being too difficult or all this other type of stuff. And it's like, I think people have a problem being told about themselves. I think people smell themselves too much. Sometimes I kind of just have to take my ego out of it and just realize people aren't necessarily mad at me. They're just mad at the situation, and I'm their closest outlet. An emotional trash can for others. Sit there and just let you talk and talk and talk. But I realize when that happens, I don't create space for my own emotions. So when I finally do express myself, they're like, oh, you're being difficult. No. I just been sitting, listening to you talk for the last 24 hours. You're not saying nothing that means anything. That's all that is. So, yeah. Yeah, so...
Definitely. I can definitely see how that has impacted you just from the initial reaction that you had, how it's affected you professionally, how it's affected you emotionally. Has anybody else been labeled as too difficult to work with or too much?
Yeah. I would say in a world of labels, everyone wants to be put, or everyone is put in a box. And I really liked what you said about, like, if you don't tell people who you are, they'll tell you who you are. I think that goes hand in hand. Like, I would say I'm a pretty easygoing person. I do have that healing spirit as well. And because of that, when people, put their opinions on me, I listen. I understand that everybody has a different perspective, and that's influenced by how they were raised, how they grew up, what environment they're from, and I respect every opinion, at least most of them, because I too, if you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm definitely going to say something, especially if it's in support of a underserved population. But yeah, with a world full of labels, everyone's going to try to tell you who you are, what you stand for, and what you do. And I think while that is constructive at times, having set that boundary within yourself allows you to kind of just speak up, and you should speak up, especially when I'm big on, people can say anything they want to me and about me, and I'm not going to react in a, poor way. But I feel the second my character is misconstrued and what I believe my true core values are, I do tend to get defensive. And I think that's human nature. How that comes out varies on the situation. But I think I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't speak my truth. So in situations like that, especially in a corporate world, you have this expectation to dampen or lessen your emotions because it's just considered unprofessional.
Right.
But in healthcare and corporate healthcare, I think it's important to speak up for yourself and others, and especially for people who don't have voices in the healthcare system. And because of that, I can be labeled as difficult when I see a situation that feels unjust. But I know at the end of the day, it's true to my core, it's true to my character.
Right.
And I think remembering that about yourself is important to essentially combat that difficulty. And you kind of just got to rock with it and let people have their perceptions of you, but as long as you know what you're doing is right, you can't go wrong.
Right.
And to piggyback off that, but first I'll just say thank you for being a Black woman in healthcare and speaking up for people who don't get that voice and that opportunity, especially for other Black women. But going off of what both of you guys said, and like you just said, it is very important for people to share their opinion. I think everyone's opinion is valid to a degree. But I think we have come to a time where everyone's so they're so anal on making sure everyone's opinions are heard. But we have kind of, as a society, regressed to the point where we're so focused on trying to highlight everybody's opinion that we're not worried about fact anymore. So unfortunately, in those type of situations where things can be difficult, I don't care if you're going to label me as difficult, because your opinion of me is just your opinion. It's not based on fact. What my passion is, if I know I am correct about something, and when I was working in news, you have to have that discernment about what's important and what's not. And especially being a Black woman, anything that you challenge, it doesn't matter the tone of your voice, it doesn't matter even how I look. And I know women with darker skin tones than me have it way worse than I do. Right. Which is why I make it a point to always speak up for the voiceless, because I'm going to have it a little bit easier. But on paper, I still got to check that black box. But I think it's incredibly important to speak up. And I've been in scenarios where I'm like, you may think this is difficult, but this is necessary. This is bigger than what your opinion is. This is bigger than what you want. And I think we've come too far into that in society now, where it's like, okay, my opinion is that the sky is purple, when I can go outside and see that it's clearly blue. Right. We're not going to argue over that. And if you take that as difficulty because you don't want to accept that fact is fact, fine. And if that's going to be a label on me, I don't mind it. But I think we're so focused on that and trying to include everyone's voices, but sometimes not everybody needs to be a part of conversations that they are not qualified to be a part of. And if that makes me difficult, I don't care. Call me the freaking AP exam or something if you want to, but I'll stand on it. I totally believe that. And I think it's very, very valid, especially for Black women in spaces like corporate and especially healthcare and any field of that matter. Difficult, we're going to be labeled as that anyway. And I might as well be difficult when it matters. Right. And I'm going to stand on that.
Right. Especially because people are so impressionable nowadays. Like we were saying, taking in so many different opinions as facts. And we have to realize as Black adults, we're becoming the aunties and uncles now. And as much as we don't want to be a role model, we're still going to be role models to people. And they need to see, these young kids, these teenagers, they need to see people standing up for the truth. Especially in this day of life, social media, AI, excuse me, AI is insane. Some of the stuff that I've seen, and it will trick your mind into like thinking what is real and what's not and swapping it and being so careful. So like, yeah, we have to speak up when we see things are wrong, like with, you know, all the things that are going on with all the court cases that are going on, and you know what's going on in Palestine and what's going on in our current administration. It needs to be spoken up against, because these kids, these teenagers are the ones that are coming after us, and we can't be so focused on the right now that we forget that there's a whole generation that has to live based off of the choices that we made, based off of the things that we've said. And it's so important to be intentional about the words that we're saying, being intentional about speaking up when things are not right, because they are counting on us to survive, essentially. So with that being said, can any of you guys share when you were the only black creative in the room, and how did that change how you expressed yourself?
There's been a lot of times where I've been the only black person in any room. It doesn't matter if it's creative, school, church, wherever. Like, that's just, you know, you're a minority. It made me want to express myself more. I never wanted to dumb myself down, you know, because at the end of the day, our culture is loud and it is beautiful. And I am not about to not wear my hair like this or not wear the jewelry that I wear because of what? You know, so a lot of times representation is of the utmost importance. Because when you see people that look like you in the spaces that you want to be in, that lets you know that you can do it. You know, and a lot of times, especially when it comes to black art, we all know the story of John, is it Basquiat? Is that how you pronounce his name? And he was hidden in a basement of this really rich white museum curator, and she was exploiting his work. And although he liked creating the work, she was still using it for exploitative purposes. I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but you know the word. Yeah. Okay, cool. We here. You know, so I think sometimes, like, again, like when you're in those spaces, you're only a black person, like, that's when you got to be the loudest. Respectfully, keep it cute, you know. But that's when you gotta be the loudest, because you can't dim your light for nobody, especially your black light.
Right.
So, yeah.
If you are in the room, take up space. Take up space. You're there for a reason. If
Say
you
that to the
weren't
camera.
there,
Look at our people and tell them that.
if you're in the room, take up as much space as you can, because if you're there for a reason. God placed you there for whatever reason, but you're there, and be you. Obviously, what you've done up to this point got you there, so don't change it up now since you're there. Continue to be you, because that's what got you there, and be proud of yourself.
Right.
Because now you are rubbing off on everybody. You're a pioneer in this room, because now people looking at you and like, what does this person have that I could take from?
Right.
But remember to protect yourself as you be yourself.
Right.
Don't let nobody drain you or anything. But always remain you. But you're there. And embrace the moment. Stay in the moment. Enjoy the moment. Because a lot of people are not able to have these moments. So once you get there, make a full experience of it. That's what I would say.
Amen.
And to kind of piggyback off of that, to take up that space, but also remember that representation matters, because a lot of times, especially now and in the future, there are going to be just one black person or one Hispanic person, or one whatever. And sometimes I am the only black person in the room. And a lot of times, especially when my flat iron has touched my scalp, it's very easy for other groups of people to remember that I am a part of the black community. And sometimes being very vigilant of those conversations that happen in those groups, it is your duty, at least to me, it is your duty, because I will say, as a black person, it is not your responsibility to represent or speak for your group or your community or your culture, but sometimes it is incredibly vital, because that's a lot of times how we end up with these egregious commercials or these social media posts, and you're thinking to yourself, how did not one person look at this and think, maybe we shouldn't, right? So a lot of times, and this is not even necessarily to blame on the said person, because it is very difficult to get in these rooms, but it is so important and so vital to our community and to your community to not let things like that slide, because it is very easy. You're going to think to yourself, should I even be talking? This is going to be, it's going to jeopardize my career, my opportunities like that. But you have to have that conversation with yourself. Am I okay with this being represented as who I am as a person, who I am, you know, my community, my family, my culture.
Right.
And what they may see as harmless or whatever is not that big of a deal. At the end of the day, it affects you. It's how you look. Because if I had a friend in spaces, I've had this instance where I've run into people and be like, why would you just be okay with that? And like, I understand you may be afraid in sometimes, but it's very important to speak up and not let that disrespect or that cultural, you know, ignorance slide, because that's going to be presented to the world. And if I just using you as an example, if I know Gabby worked on that project, I'm not looking at the white people. I'm not looking at the Hispanic people. I'm going to look at you, Gabby, and be like, why didn't you say anything? So I think it's just as important to use your voice in those settings and scenario when you are the only person that's there, because sometimes you have to be that rider and that warrior for your culture. If you're going to be proud of who you are outside of those rooms, do it in that room too, whatever that may look like.
Yep, your name is on the line.
I wanna add something. I think as Black people, we gotta put our Blackness before everything. A lot of times, I think we put our career or what we're trying to do before stuff like. For example, me being a part of the LGBT community, it's like sometimes I feel like you have Black people that are homophobic, but it's like I'm a Black person before I'm anything else. You know, so sometimes it's like you're not fighting for all of us, you're fighting for none of us. And even if you work so hard to get in a room full of white folk, that don't mean you need to forget your Blackness because you're trying to rub elbows with Susie May. You know what I mean? Like, you got to put your Blackness before anything. Because if you don't stand for us because you're so busy trying to climb that ladder, child, they don't like you.
Right.
You look just like me, you know? So put God first, but then put your Blackness first, because you got to fight for all of us. Because at the end of the day, they're all against us. It does not matter.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and definitely being in a space where we protect each other, especially nowadays. Black men and Black women are going at each other so bad, and it really disheartens me, because we all are one, and we all at the end of the day struggle the same way. And the fact that we've allowed outside forces to come in and rip apart the union that we've formed with each other is so disheartening. Like, we need to protect each other, especially Black women. We coming in this day and age where a lot of these people, they say protect Black women until it's their favorite celebrity doing something, and it's not cool. Like, we can't. And then when you criticize what said Black man has done to said Black woman, then they're like, no, but we got to protect the Black man. And I'm like, part of the protecting the Black man is protecting the image of the Black man. And if you are portraying yourself in a way that is harmful to Black women and Black men, you need to be called out on it, because we already are under a microscope for a many number of things, and we don't need to add more stuff. So yes, it is. Yes, sometimes we don't want to speak up because we don't want to be labeled as difficult or whatever, but it's so essential, because us speaking up is protecting other people. And knowing, again, going back to knowing who you are and knowing what you stand for is so important. What Diamond said, like, not attaching your name to things that could be harmful to other people. That's very important. Like, because again, people don't care how much money that you made. They care about your impact. And your impact, when I put all my projects that I've put out, have been to a level of integrity. And if I did compromise my integrity, I said, don't give me no credit. Just give me my money. Don't put my name on it. Because I don't want to be attached to that. And like, we can't be so focused on, the money in our pocket, the clothes that we're wearing, the house that we live in, that we realize that we look pretty on the outside, but our soul is trash. Like, it's so important. Did anybody else want to add on to?
Yeah, I want to add to something you just said about the conflict between Black men and Black women, because that was the driving force behind why I wrote my song Black Love, to speak to both Black men and Black women, because I feel like we were raised in two different households to speak two different languages based off the roots of our culture in America.
Right.
And it's so sad, because especially when you're seeing like this whole discourse on Twitter, and Black women are angry with Black men and Black men are angry with Black women, and it's just, I'm like, our families, are falling apart because of this, and everything like you just said about not understanding the responsibility of our images and what we portray ourselves as.
Right.
And how are we adding to our progress as a people, or are we taking away from that? So it's just like you said, how Blackness comes first in that instance, because there'll never be a day where we don't have to consider our race. And I just asked myself this question just recently. I'm like, who would I be if I never had to think about me being Black? And I know it's just never a time where you didn't even consider it. Even as a kid, on a subconscious level, you were considering it because of just playing with dolls, or not seeing yourself represented, or noticing, oh, it's the only one Black girl in this, show that I'm watching as a kid. So there's never a time where our Blackness is not a part of who we are. So it's so important to make sure that we're contributing to our progress.
Right.
And I just really wanted to add that.
Thank you for adding that. Definitely, Black Love, again, listen to that song. It's a very great song, and I definitely believe it's important that people should know that we love each other. Like, we can't expect nobody to love or respect us if we don't love and respect ourselves. And it starts internally, and as we work internally, we work externally. So I definitely agree with that. With that, did anybody have anything else to add?
Yeah, just one last thing.
Go for it.
Kind of going off of what both of you said, representation matters. And I know you said earlier about the LGBTQ community and how you have to consider your Blackness first. But I will say the discourse that we're seeing online and social media, I want to say that it is very, very vital to sometimes just log off. Because I think it's a very, very important point to add. And I'm looking in the camera when I say this. The reason why you're seeing this discourse specifically through Black people is that if this discourse is happening for a reason. We are a very strong group, unified. Division is the one thing that is going to be our downfall. In terms like this, it's like the worst time to be trying to divide it. So I would just say stay away from that. Ignore it as best as possible, because you cannot be pro-Black and anti-gay, anti-this, anti-that, anti-Black man, anti-Black woman. That's just not how it works. Black unity is Black unity at the end of the day. And if you are riding for one, you got to ride for all of us. That's just how it works. So if we weren't seen as a powerful force as a community, I promise you, we don't see Asian people doing this. We don't see Indian people do this. And if they do, they keep it behind closed doors. It's not broadcasted to the public. We're the only community that I've seen doing this. And I think it's so vital for us to remember, if we're at each other's throats, we're doing their job for them.
Amen.
And just a quick little wrap up note, but definitely been the only Black person in the room. But at the end of the day, being the only Black person in the room is an honor. I think that if you remind yourself of the fact that I'm paving the way for these future generations so that one day they won't be in this room by themselves. And they get to look at me and see that I have the strength and the tenacity to overcome preconceived notions despite everybody trying to see me fail. I'm going to step in my power and look at the people before me and see how they stepped in their power being the only Black person in the room, and carry that with me. And I just remind myself of that. And I remind myself that I'm doing a service to my community, and that in itself helps me overcome those notions and those people who are trying to see me down. And I love the thought of it because at the end of the day, I love contributing. And I think that as someone who I have 4 younger sisters, and that, can be a lot of pressure sometimes, because I want them to look at me and to see someone that, wow, you overcame these obstacles, you overcame this, and I want to do the same. I remember when President Barack Obama was first elected, that was so inspiring. And I know that I saw that, and I saw who I could be and what lengths and what levels I can find myself in. And it made me want to strive to be there. So to be the only Black person in the room is an honor to the future generations. And I hope that they see it as such too.
Right. And also being that only Black person in the room, questioning those higher ups. Why am I the only Black person in this room? That's so important too. It's definitely an honor, but we should not still be breaking milestones in 2025. The first Black designer for Wicked. How many years has the Oscars been going on? And it's 2025, the first black designer to win an Oscar, that needs to stop. So yes, as much of it as it being an honor, I love being the only black person in the room sometimes, because sometimes I need to be that voice. But also being able to say, hey, it's great, but we need more color in here, and not just black people. We need to see Asian people in here. We need to see Latinos in here. And I know sometimes people say, well, they don't represent us, but like sometimes it takes us to get those people in those rooms. And unfortunately, sometimes it's a thankless job. But when you do it, it makes it better for the future generation. It makes it better for the people that are coming behind us, because we're not always going to get a thank you, but we get to see the fruits of our labor. And sometimes that's the biggest thank you that we can get.